Arizona State is going to have themselves two new weapons on the defensive side of the ball. Who are they and what's their impact going to be? We're going to talk about that on this edition of the Locked On Sun Devils podcast.
Are Locked On Sun Devils, your daily podcast on the Arizona State Sun Devils, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome back to the Locked On Sun Devils podcast. My name is Richie Bradshaw, and I will be your guide for everything Arizona State Sun Devils. Thank you guys so much for making us your first listen of the day. Remember, we're free and available on all platforms, including YouTube, if you would like to check us out on a visual platform. But wherever you do get those podcasts, make sure that you hit like and subscribe and turn on those notifications so you get an update whenever we post new content. Before we get started, I do want to thank LinkedIn Jobs for being the official college football recruiting sponsor across the Locked On College Network. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Terms and conditions will apply. Hopping into today's conversation, we're going to be looking at two guys on the defensive side of the ball. One who we're slightly familiar with, and one that we're completely unfamiliar with. Looking first at the guy who we do know is Travez Moore. And this is a guy that we've talked about on the podcast plenty of times. Travez Moore, defensive end, going into his fifth and likely final season in his college career. I am not sure if he is still eligible for another year because of injury and COVID, but he is back. And he tweeted out yesterday on his Twitter account, which is at @Moore_Travez. If you would like to follow him, I know I certainly am. Tweeted out, finally cleared and ready to go for fall camp. That's about as clear cut as it gets. I don't know if you're going to be able to find a source that's more accurate than from the man himself. So Travez Moore is back. And this is a pretty big deal for Arizona State as you're looking at a defensive line that is going to be trying to replace Jermaine Lole and DJ Davidson and Tyler Johnson. There is a lot of opportunity here for a lot of guys. You know, Michael Mattis is a guy I expect to step up. Looking at Robbie Harrison, incoming freshman. You have Nesta Jade Silvera is coming in. There's a lot of players here who are going to be looking for time to get onto the field. And Travez Moore could be one of the biggest beneficiaries of that, is being able to find himself a lot more playing time than maybe he would have previously. There's just not going to be nearly as much competition for him. And because of that, with him being healthy as well, it's basically a straight and narrow path for him. He can start as much as he wants to. The only thing that's really ever held Travez back is injuries. He's played 7 games in college in 4 years. He's played 7 games. And that includes 3 years at LSU before transferring to Arizona State this past season. He has just gotten the short end of the stick when it comes to the injury bug, and it unfortunately has held back a freakish athlete when he is on the field. But if he is truly 100% and he feels as good as he claims he does, you know, let's say he feels better than ever. I'm not going to say that because it's not a direct quote from him. But let's say he does feel better than ever. That's a huge boon for the defense. I would tell you there were times last season where Travez looked like the best pass rusher the team had. In 3 games, he only had 6 tackles, but he turned it into 2.5 tackle for loss and a sack. He was generating pressure. He was ferocious off the edge. He's fast. He's strong. Converts that speed to power. He's I don't want to say NFL caliber because you need to see him put it together. But he has a lot of potential to be a very, very good player. And this is definitely someone that I'm going to be keeping my eye on throughout fall camp. I want to see whether or not Travez can take that step forward and truly become this cornerstone edge rusher for the team, especially because Arizona State desperately needs that right now. It needed it even with Jermaine Lole coming back. You need the guy opposite him. But Lole's gone. He transferred to Louisville. Adios. There's a huge hole at defensive end right now. You've got plenty of guys on the defensive tackle side. You need defensive ends right now. And Travez Moore seemingly fills that spot, at least on one side. But hey, it's better than not having any kind of solution whatsoever. So when I'm looking at Travez Moore, if he's healthy, I'm definitely expecting him to be a big time contributor for the team. If he can find a way to play 12 games or 13 if we do become bowl eligible, if he plays that 12 to 13 game season, I mean, I truly do believe this is a guy who can post up 7, 8 sacks, flirt with double digits. I think he is that kind of player. He has a lot of potential. He's raw, he's untapped. There's so much to work with here. And I mean, he's got God-given talent. He's 6'3", 245, quick off the edge, power to him. He's got the goods that you're looking for at the defensive end edge rushing position. My only question, again, is just the health. Because if he can't stay healthy, then unfortunately his time is going to come to a close. It's just the nature of the game. We're not rooting for it by any means. Obviously, I'm a very big Travez Moore believer. I believe that if he is healthy, this is a big time difference maker for you on defense. I think Travez Moore could end up being one of the best defensive players you have. I mean, you look at Merlin Robertson, Corey Bethley. After that, it's kind of up in the air for who wants to be the next best. Kyle Soley has an inside track to be the team's leading tackler. You have the upside of Jordan Clark in the nickel. You have the upside of Chris Edmonds across from Corey Bethley at safety. Maybe you get a defensive lineman who can step up. But if Travez Moore wants to be the best player on defense, I don't know what's stopping him. I don't know that there's any reason he can't be that guy. It's all just going to depend on those injuries because they have plagued him for so long that unfortunately it is a narrative with his career. But if he can find a way to shake that off, and if he can find a way to finally be on the field and prove his worth, he is going to prove his worth. I think this is a very talented player. And I think that Arizona State could have a difference maker and maybe even a game changer on the defensive side of the ball. All he's got to do is stay healthy. Let's go ahead and hop into our first break. When we return, we're going to go ahead and continue this conversation, but we're taking a look at a new face that's coming to the defense. Who is that player? We'll talk about that in just a moment on the Locked On Sun Devils podcast. As the sun comes out and small businesses are back in business, LinkedIn Jobs makes it easier to grow your team. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the people you want to interview faster and for free. Create a free job post in minutes on LinkedIn Jobs to reach your network and beyond to the world's largest professional network of over 810 million people. Then add your job and the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring so your network can help you find the right people to hire. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the candidates you want to talk to faster. Did you know that nearly every week there's 40 million job seekers that visit LinkedIn? Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Which NFL stars move the betting line the most? Starting July 18th, Locked On gives you the 50 most valuable players in the NFL from the odds makers at BetOnline. Available July 18th on Locked On NFL, wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube. The next guy up that I want to talk about now. This is something that really went under the radar over the weekend. I didn't see anyone talking about this, and I want to bring attention to it. Arizona State got themselves another community college transfer. I am not 100% sure on how to pronounce his last name. So, James, if you're listening, I do apologize. James Djonkam is how I'm going with it for now until I have more confirmation on how to pronounce it for sure. But James Djonkam is a linebacker coming from Independence. Yeah, Independence Community College out in Kansas. Dude is built like an old-fashioned linebacker. 6'4", 250 pounds. He's a lot bigger than the modern linebacker where you see the guys who are, 6'1", 220 pounds. This is a guy who's built for like 70s, 80s style football. He's just big, bulky, he's long. This is a guy who is unfortunately it's like untraditional, I think, because of today's league, but maybe it is traditional. It just depends who you ask. But the point is, Arizona State has themselves a very big linebacker to go onto a team that really doesn't have a lot of size. I mean, Merlin Robertson is a pretty average guy. Soley is a little bit bigger. Connor Soley is not as big as his brother Kyle. The rest of the linebackers just don't stack up to the way that Joncom seems to, or not seems to, definitely does. Interesting enough, when he was talking about his commitment, according to ASUDevils.com, in an interview, it came down to us, Arizona State, and an SEC school. Quote from him: "My decision was really up for grabs between Auburn and ASU, but Auburn wanted me as an edge rusher, and they also wanted me to come in a little bit later than ASU. On top of that, they were bringing me in to really be a second, third string kind of player, try to get me into the rotation, and then next year start. Whereas ASU was telling me that I have a really high chance of starting this year. Coming out of JUCO, my main objective was getting on the field as fast as I can to truly show everyone what I can do." Sounds about right. I mean, obviously, the chance to go to the SEC is so tantalizing for just about every athlete in the whole world. The spotlight is on you. It's the best football in the whole wide world. It's the best college ball. I would argue it's just as good as NFL football. SEC is a religion when it comes to college football for a reason. So passing up on the opportunity to go to the SEC, and I mean a legit SEC. This isn't Vanderbilt. This isn't Mizzou. This is Auburn. Auburn was in the national championship game about 10 years ago, and they won a national championship about 13 years ago. This is a program that is very well versed. They are a very competitive team, and they routinely turn out defenders for what it's worth. Tons of defensive linemen, some linebackers who have made it to the pros as well. But he ends up deciding he wants to come to Arizona State, and he highlights a couple of reasons that I find interesting here. The first one was that Auburn wanted him to be an edge rusher. Now, with his build at 6'4", 250, that makes sense. That is a prototypical edge rusher build. In fact, with how big and long he is, you could probably add some weight to him, which might have been Auburn's plan. Because again, the second thing he points out here is that he was told he might be a second or third string player who gets developed. That's not uncommon when you have teams like Auburn that are constantly rotating guys in. There is a chance that Junkum would have been, kind of washed in the what's the word I'm looking for? Like the rotation and everything. There's a chance that he wouldn't have gotten a lot of time to start and play. And like he said, he's looking to start and play immediately. Well, he chooses Arizona State where they told him, "Hey, there's a really good chance you start." And hey, they're right. There is a very good chance that Jonkum can come in and start right away for Arizona State. Right now, you've got Merlin Robertson and Kyle Soley for sure taking up two of your three linebacker spots. Third one's up for grabs. I highlighted last week that I think Connor Soley could be a really nice surprise for the team and that he could step up into that third linebacker role. But with that being said, it's far from his. It has not been locked up by any means. It is still free game for everybody on the roster. Joncom definitely recognized that, and he said, "Yeah, I'm gonna go to Tempe. I'm gonna take my talents to Tempe, Arizona, and I'm gonna show them exactly what they're betting on, is that I'm going to be a great football player. This was a guy who didn't really get a lot of looks when he was coming out of high school. In fact, if I remember correctly per the article, I don't know if he got any looks at all. I mean, this is a guy who definitely was not highly touted coming out. I think I saw earlier he was like a two-star recruit, but that might have been for him coming out of independence. So this is a guy who has about as big a chip on your shoulder as you could possibly have. He he is so determined and has something to prove to everybody in the whole world that he's not to be meddled with. This is the guy. This is a good player. That's what he wants to prove. He's the guy, pal. Trust me, he's that guy. Here's your opportunity. Like he said, Arizona State promised him that there was in fact an opportunity, and I'm here to confirm for you, James, that there absolutely is. Again, you've got two linebacker spots not only locked up, but like confidently locked up. Like there's not a lot on this defense where you look and you're like, you know, I feel very very good about that. But the two of the three linebacker spots, you do feel good. It's the third one where you're iffy. You don't know. And, worst comes to worse, Djonkam is definitely going to see playing time this year. Not a doubt in my mind. Maybe he doesn't turn into an every game starter, but he could be a very important rotational role. Look at Eric Gentry last year. Gentry wasn't hardly a starter, but yet they were getting him involved all the time, and he was making plays all the time. I don't see any reason why Joncom can't be that guy. I don't see a reason why he can't come onto this football team and provide a similar kind of impact, even as a rotational linebacker. Because who knows? Maybe Arizona State really does want to just rotate that third linebacker in and out. Maybe they want to play more dime or they want five defensive linemen up front. I don't know. Maybe we don't really have an idea yet on where their head is on trying to get this defensive line in a routine and in a good shuffle right now. So Joncom could definitely have himself a really nice role with the team. And obviously he's very excited about coming to Arizona State, which is that much better, knowing that you've got a guy who is ready to prove everybody wrong and show that he belongs in the major leagues when it comes to college football. Let's go ahead and hop into our final break. When we return, we're going to talk about these two guys again and what we should expect for their roles to be in 2022. This is the Locked On Sun Devils podcast. BetOnline.net is your number one source for all your betting needs and sports information. Find the latest sports developments, league reviews, and news, including this year's Major League Baseball season. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sports wagering information, including live betting, esports, and scores. And BetOnline.net remains the best spot for all your sports scores, podcasts, and news. BetOnline.net is the fastest and easiest way to check on all your favorite sports events, including MMA, boxing, and even golf. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. BetOnline, where the game starts. And you guys got to make sure that you are tuned in to the Locked On Pac-12 podcast. Locked On Pac-12, hosted by my good friend Spencer McLaughlin of the Locked On Network. 30 minutes or less. Check it out. I pop on there every once in a while if you want to hear my takes, but definitely make it your second listen of the day. Final topic, putting a bow on everything. I really am excited about Travez Moore. I truly am. I think that this guy, he's got that it factor. If he can just stay healthy. And it's such a big if because he's played 7 games in 4 seasons. But that's not a like taking away from his talent. That's not saying he's a bad player. He is a good player. Who knows? Maybe he's a great player. And we just have been robbed of being able to see that. We don't know. We don't know until he gets onto the field and he gets to prove to everyone why he's such a great player. He's got that potential to be great. He's got all the tools, right? Again, sounding like a broken record. He's fast, he's strong, he's got bend, he's built. This is a big kid. He's a former 4-star. And he started his career at LSU. There is definitely a reason why this kid is so highly touted. And when we have gotten to see those opportunities, he has looked good. He looked good for us last year before that knee injury. I have a feeling he can bounce back and be just as good, if not even better than that. I really do really like Travez Moore this year. I am ready to get hurt, no pun intended. I am ready to go all out on my love for him. Looking at James Djonkam, there's, like he said, there's a big time opportunity here for some big time roles with this team. It's just going to be up to him. How much do you want it? You say you want it bad, prove it to me. Get on the field. Look better than everybody else. Because you do that, I promise you, you're going to see the field 70, 80% of the snaps. Maybe you're starting. There is a great opportunity here for James Djonkam to come out and make some noise. I'm excited for him. As far as their roles, right now they're probably rotational guys. Travez, you just want to make sure that you ease him back into this. You can't just throw him back out there. That is setting him up to fail, regardless of how talented he is. If you sit there and you go, you're playing 100% of the snaps, we know you're coming off a knee injury, but get out there. I don't know if I would agree with that. For Joncum, this is a JUCO guy. He's not used to college offenses, like Power 5 offenses. Well, Division 1 offenses. He's not used to that. It's going to be a learning curve for him. And that's okay. There's going to be hiccups. There's going to be some frustrating mental errors that he has. But he can also turn out to be a very good player once he does get a grasp on how fast everything moves. Once he does get a grasp on the defensive scheme, he builds chemistry with his teammates. He does all these things right. Maybe by the end of the year, we're talking about him as a returning player for the Sun Devils in 2023. That's got us really excited. It's just going to be a matter of making sure that everything fits together, that everything that you want to do ends up stacking up right. I have the faith that both of these guys can turn out to be very good players. I want them to prove me right. And I want them to make everyone regret not talking about them more. If you go to Google, you type in Travez Moore, go to the latest news, there's nothing there. If you go to James Djonkam, type him in on Google, go to news, there's nothing there. You go to Sun Devil Source, they're talking about it. Speak of the Devils, they're talking about it. ASU Sun Devils, they're talking about it. We're talking about it. It's about time the fans get to know these guys too. It's about time the Pac-12 gets to know these guys. But that's going to go ahead and wrap up this edition of the Locked On Sun Devils podcast. Again, thank you guys so much for making us your first listen every day. Remember, this podcast is free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. If you would like to check us out in a visual platform, wherever you do get those podcasts, though, make sure that you hit like and subscribe and turn on those notifications so you get an update every single time we post a new episode. If you're on Twitter, go ahead and follow me. You can follow me at RichieBrads36. And you can follow the podcast as well at LO_Sun Devils. But that does it for here. Until next time, you keep it locked right here on Locked On Sun Devils.